So what did you think about the book?
Admit that this is one of the only books that I only got halfway through.
Okay.
Because I put it down in the middle and read through the next month's book.
Is it?
I found the book very interesting, but I did not feel that she made the point clear enough as to why she was writing it. Each chapter was very interesting, but why did you feel compelled to write all of this? What tied all of those different experiences together?
Yeah.
You decided to put them in a book.
Yeah, I felt...
And that really bothered me.
Me too. I felt that same way. I felt like it just felt very all over the place, you know? Like it wasn't... Like some of the chapters were very interesting. The whole idea of there's like anti-Semitism in every place that you've gone through, and they're really, you know, I guess you could say they love dead Jews in the sense of, you know, that it's after the fact, and you know, it's
why did you feel you had to do this?
Yeah, and she's thinking about it for 20 years. 20 years. I mean, that's a lot of years to think about it. And once I read the entire book, which I could tell you that after the first few chapters, it doesn't get better. It just kind of goes downhill.
It's a downer.
Yeah. It goes downhill, and I felt she ends off, if you read her, at the end of the book, I was reading her, about her mom. Let me see where it was.
I do like the way she writes, though. I mean, I do. Like, you mentioned that to me initially when, you know, you said, oh, she's such a good writer. She is. But,
she is.
You know,
yeah. That's why it was surprising.
I like her style.
Yeah, I do too. I like her style.
We have read other books, several other books by her that we've really loved.
Yeah. She like mentions it in the beginning. Her books, she did, what was it? You know, The World to Come. We read that. Yeah.
We read that.
Yeah. A Guide for the Perplexed. I think we might have read, or Eternal Life.
We read that, yes.
In the Image, I don't think we ever read. All Other Nights, I'm not sure. But those are all of like her really, I guess, famous books. So she is really, really good.
She's very well educated.
Yeah.
Read her bio.
I mean, it's incredible.
She's incredibly well educated.
Yeah, she's really. So she talks about her mom, and it was in the acknowledgments. And she says that her mother always raised her to be curious about the Jewish past and conscious of how we make use of it in the present. And I thought that was interesting because she never goes to the present. She's stuck in the past. And I think that was the problem. Even if, like you said, she's so educated and she knows how to write and she knows how to express herself, but the whole storyline, that's the problem. She's stuck where there is no real, I guess, goal. There's no real movement.
Yes, so that bothered me. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I felt. That's, you know, a lot of the book. I also thought it was interesting. The title draws you in. If you see the title, you're like, oh my gosh. And you know the author, so you know it's not some, there has to be something. So I thought that was a really good part about it. I thought she was way too emotional with those girls. I mean, I thought that was a bit much with those girls. That night, they're all talking about, you know, Jews look like. And she mentions a good point that, you know, we always say, oh, you have such a Jewish look or a Jewish nose or a Jewish this. It all comes from, she's saying, anti-Semitism from Hitler. So that was interesting. I did not realize that. I don't know if you guys realized that before, but I never realized that. So that was... I also think that there's like this childlike mentality that happens where people just go to like synagogue up until a certain age and then they drop it. I'm sure that you had that experience with some students, and then they go in the world, they're told to go to university, they get a job, they have responsibilities, they mature, but they never mature with their Jewishness, with you know, their religion. And I think a lot of times that is also what's happening. So I feel like with her, she has all these beautiful questions, but they never really go anywhere because I don't know what age she stopped learning. And then she talks about she learns again later on, but she asks these questions and she doesn't really know where she who to turn to for learning, but will just somehow hopefully remember it. But there's no real, I guess you can say, answers for her. So I think that's another big part that I've noticed with people, that they don't know the approach, there's an immature approach when it comes to religion, because of how, the values of how one is raised, and it's not their fault, but then it makes it harder, I think, in life. So,
Right.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. I thought it was interesting about the notebooks. Did you notice that, or what do you think about? What are you talking about, Shira? I didn't hear your question.
Where were the notebooks? Was it that was past the halfway mark?
So
I don't recall about notebooks.
oh yeah, so she mentions about she keeps notebooks like a reporter's journal. Boring events, no other reason but to lock them down on paper, she writes. And that's like I'm not sure where that was. So maybe it was past the halfway point. I'm not sure, but she talks about that. Like that's one of the reasons of why she wanted to write, is because she liked that. She liked to, I guess, document everything. Kind of like a YouTuber about Anne Frank and what she said about it. What were your thoughts, Dara?
Yeah, that it was kind of sanitized in a sense for the public.
Yeah.
And I see that Isaac used to work at the Holocaust Museum before he right now he works for the University of Michigan now, and the Holocaust Museum here in Detroit, and they tell the story and history of things that go on, but it is kind of watered down, like for school groups and things like that, oh, look, we have to be, respectful of diversity all over, and respectful of humankind.
Right.
And that's very laudable. However, it does water down the experience. I gave a talk last night at Sudash Shid at our shul about the book The Sunflower and the ideas of forgiveness of the Holocaust. And that's one of the aspects we talked about, that people are trying to gloss it over so that it's palatable for the general population, because they don't want to deal with the truth.
Yeah. So one thing I thought that also, where I felt that she got too emotional, the author, was when she was saying that they wouldn't appreciate Anne Frank because she was a child author. And I just was thinking, when they said that, really happened almost 8 years. And so when people tell me, oh, you can just put it on this or just put it on that, I saw how many years editing goes into it. It is like a lot. And so a child writer, as much as she could have, and she really is a good writer, but there's so much that goes into when you're older, when you're maturing, what you think, perspective, that I don't think that is just because, that she was Jewish. I think it's more that, she's just very young. And she happened to be noticed because of anti-Semitism, because there was so much that happened. They want to preserve her work and her story. It was just incredible, and they don't want that to die. So, but I don't think it was, because of anti-Semitism that she would never have been noticed. I just think that she was very, very young,
Yes.
So that's
a sweet, innocent thing, and this terrible experience makes for, good literature.
Right, exactly. So that was another point she mentions about Anne Frank. And then Anne Frank says that people are truly good at heart, and she doesn't believe that. So I wanted to know what you thought about that, you guys, about the whole idea, are people really good at heart? Are people really good? And of course, she doesn't believe that, which I think is really shocking. I think there's so many good people, but with her view, maybe how her life was, she doesn't believe people are really good. which is, and then that means, in my mind, if people are not good, it means all people, not just Hitler or יימח שמו, not just anti-Semitic people, but there are people, she's saying everyone is not really good at heart. So I think that's a huge problem for someone who's writing such a book, because you have to be open-minded, you know?
It's based on her experience.
Yeah.
And the people she dealt with were really bad. So
yeah. That's probably what it was. So, and then, see, anything else you guys can remember that was interesting?
I was really touched by the chapter about the Harbin Jews.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe the reason why it was, I noticed it so much is because I have watched many times the photographs of their big ice festival that they have every year. And so it really struck me that Jews had built this place, you know, and it was a place for Jews, and they had this vibrant community. Right. Until the Chinese and the Russians came in and just destroyed everything and destroyed them.
Right.
And now they're having this little museum, so to speak. You know, come see the Jewish synagogue, come see this or that.
Yeah.
And they're putting in artifacts that they don't know what they are. Oh, but they used these. This is this, but it's not right, you know?
Yeah, it's all backward. Yeah.
So, and they're doing it because they want to get Jewish tourism, not because they love Jews. Right. It's, you know, a commercial enterprise.
Yeah, or the amusement park over the graves. That was
Oh, that was, yeah.
Oh, gosh. It was too much. Yeah, I thought it was also an interesting point she could have also made. Well, yeah, I like that about, you know, that she mentions that. But I thought that she also could have mentioned about Shanghai, you know, the Jews there, World War II, coming in and being opened with welcoming arms. And I think it was the emperor that said, you know, you're welcome to be here, that, you know, he disagreed with what was going on. And of course, I know the book is based on showing all of the, what seems to be all of the negative of every single place. But like you said, it was incredible that there was this place, that there was Jews there. And there's places that they took in Jews and people that are not anti-Semitic, and they sacrificed their life for Jewish people. So it just seems like, I think that would have been really nice to see. Like,
I think,
yeah.
Sorry. I think that's why it bothers me that she didn't wrap it up.
Yeah.
In the end, because all of these, all of these different chapters were very interesting, but she did it obviously to make a point, and she never made her point.
Exactly.
You know, what is the point? The point is people are anti-Semitic, or it's the point that we need to remember things that have been lost? Is it the point that we need to educate the public? Is it, you know, we need to go out into the world, be more involved? What is your point?
Right.
That you learned from all of this?
Right. And also, when she was talking to a lot of these reporters, so in the beginning she would do it, she would write these op-eds, and she would, you know, talk to people because she wanted people to know the truth, like what really happened, the real story. But then at some point she just was too upset to talk to anyone anymore. And I felt like, well, what was the point of that? Then you're not giving the real story. So I felt I was getting lost. And Russia, so she spoke about how the Russian people were also really, really terrible, and in some ways even worse than what happened in Germany. Of course, it wasn't to that extent, but they were destroying them. And she says, if you even ask around, no one even knows this. And I'm thinking, that's not true. And it sounds terrible to say, but like, I felt she should have did her homework. It was a good line, but anyone who knows Israel knows it was, you know, it was born on like Russian Jews. You know, it was made up of a lot of Russian ideas and Jews, and they know the story that Russia like destroyed they would say the Jewish soul. They like just tried so hard to like destroy them in every way. So even though, she says no one knows about it, I don't think that that's true. And I think it's a big deal if you're writing something, saying that you're documenting what was going on through different areas, and you're, showing which type of Jews lived where, what happened. And a very big part of Russian Jewry, what happened with them, to say that no one really knows what's going on in Russia. I mean, everyone knows what's going on in Russia, especially Jews. I mean, you can say maybe other places don't, but especially in Israel, everyone knows that what they did, how they treated Jews. I mean, it's been well documented, So that was one thing I didn't really understand why she went to that. And also, about the Ellis Island, did you read that?
That the name changes.
Yeah.
That the people chose to change their names.
Did you believe that?
That's not what I had heard. I can
can't
understand.
imagine.
I think that in Ellis Island there may have been a language barrier.
Yeah.
And people are scared and people are tired, by the time they come there, and they'll agree to anything.
Yeah.
Change, here I am, I'm going to have a new life. And that's,
Right.
let's my name be, my grandmother's name was changed to Newman, because now he is a new man.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So Esty, what happened in Ellis Island? I didn't get that far.
Okay,
Up until now, the majority of the stuff you talked about, I read.
Okay, so she says that we all believe that everyone just stood in line and, they didn't hear your name right or whatever it was, and they kind of just gave you a name, and you just kind of like the jokes of, I forgot my name, Ich Ferguson, and then it became Ferguson or whatever it was, and you keep moving. But then she says, no, that's not really true. That people just wanted a new life. And she heard this from someone, but I feel like she didn't really go into who she heard this from. Because I'm thinking, well, you have a lot of Jews, which they didn't want to live in America in the sense of giving up their Jewish identity. They're kind of still living in shtetls. And then you have plenty of Jews that maybe wanted to have a different last name. But a lot of people, I know that my own grandmother, when they came over, they kept their names. And you can say in some ways they definitely wanted the American dream. Many of her friends did, but everyone kind of really kept their names. Maybe they shortened it, but to change it into, I don't know. It seems really far-fetched if you're saying both sides of Jews, observant and non-observant, say the same story. It doesn't make sense, her claim.
Yeah, that doesn't,
Well, I think some of it, too, was she said that the Jews, a lot of the Jews that changed their name did it not at Ellis Island, but did it later.
Right, you're right. That's also, it didn't make sense at all.
It was a 2-for-1 special.
Yeah, there you go.
I like that. So the letters, a few letters changed makes sense, but the rest of the story just doesn't make sense. So, yeah. Also, her Daf Yomi, that was interesting towards the end. So it seems that the way she writes that she has, like, I guess her 4th kid, and she can't find her place with listening to all the news, so she goes to learning Torah. But then she's critical of, it's interesting, like she goes, they don't know what they're talking about when it comes to the Talmud, from different centuries, they're commentators in different centuries. So that was really interesting to her, but she just didn't I guess she felt she could have wrote it better. And I thought that was a funny concept because, besides the Torah, the Talmud is, I think, one of the best. So it's hard to... But, it was interesting. I felt she had plans of where she wanted the book to go, but I think it just didn't have an end. So that's really where it ends, yeah.
I wonder what other reviewers have said about it.
Yeah, I actually didn't check that out. I should have probably.
I know that it was, big up in lights because it's a new book, and she is a very prominent author on all of the Jewish book boards. And we've liked many of the books.
Yeah, we did.
So we've read quite a bit for work, which has been fantastic.
Yeah. It's really good.
So it'd be interesting to. I think the effort was laudable.
Yeah.
But it ended too quickly.
Yeah.
She needed to wrap it up.
Right. Or to show some sort of contrast, to show positive and then negative, and then to do some sort of a wrap up.
There needed to be a point, and there was no point.
Yeah. Okay, if you want, we can go through the different quotes. Shira, you want to begin? I know I made a lot of them because they just felt there was a lot of good ones.
Sure. I was going to actually, I like to read the beginning part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
People love dead Jews. Dara Horn. Reflecting on subjects as far-flung as the international veneration of Anne Frank, the blockbuster traveling exhibition called Auschwitz, the Jewish history of the Chinese city of Harbin, and the little-known righteous Gentile Barium Fry. Dara Horn challenges us to confront the reasons why there might be so much fascination with Jewish deaths as emblematic of the worst of evils the world has to offer, and so little respect for Jewish lives as they continue to unfold in the present. Horn draws on her own family's life, trying to explain Shakespeare's Shylock to a curious 10-year-old. Her anger when swastikas are drawn on desks at her children's school in New Jersey. The profound and essential perspective offered by traditional religious practice, prayer, and study to assert the vitality, complexity, and depth of this life against an anti-Semitism that, far from being disarmed by the mantra of never forget, is on the rise. So the thematic analysis, the quote, I don't get it, these girls made it to the Nationals. These are the smart people, and they're getting their information from Hitler. So people love the dead Jews. It says anti-Semitic leaders and movements can easily become accepted sources of information, even for otherwise intelligent and discerning people. And the Torah perspective, truth is an essentially divine character trait. We are therefore enjoined to seek the truth everywhere and accept the truth wherever it is found, even if it disconcertingly challenges our previously held perspective. So, yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that, truth is I like it says truth is an essentially divine character trait. Yeah, truth is very important, and people just seem to sometimes go with the flow, or I don't know what their mentality is or their reasoning. But yeah, some people, they get their information from or how they believe it. But you know what I mean? Yeah, I could see that when she was, I guess she mentioned it to her mother, and her mother just said, I know. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, I could understand too. But unfortunately that happens.
I think a lot of people, aside from, we think people know all about Jews, because here we are, but even especially in Green Bay, a lot of people have not heard of, they've never met a Jew.
Right.
So they hear the out of the box, prejudice that just kind of floats around. And they take that for being the truth, because there's no one, they've never met one, they've never had anybody dispel, misconceptions.
I guess we could always walk around and say, see, we don't have horns or whatever, I don't know. I mean, not to be smart about it, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, and people really don't know. Someone came to my husband years ago and said, well, do Jews bury their dead standing up?
Wow.
Where did you get that idea?
Oh my God.
They had heard it somewhere, know?
Right.
So,
and then always, procreating through a sheet or whatever, all that craziness,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of ignorance outside of,
whatever. Yeah.
Major metropolitan areas.
Right.
And Green Bay is not considered a major metropolitan area as far as Jews go. You know, it's the Welt.
Yeah.
So, after Anne Frank had to hide her identity so much that she was forced to spend 2 years in a closet rather than breathe in public. And that closet, hiding place for a dead Jewish girl, is what millions of visitors want to see. There is a massive and almost macabre interest in Anne Frank's life because of its short span and tragic end. And the same interest exists in the Holocaust in general. Nevertheless, there is much less interest shown in ensuring that there never will be another Holocaust. The purpose of remembering historical events is primarily for making the future better than the past, both on the individual level and on a national level. Self-evaluation should determine how to strengthen what has been done properly and how to fix mistakes. Unfortunately, that is all too true. You know, you would think that we have learned from prior history of mistakes and things that have happened, and we don't necessarily, and that's really too bad.
I don't believe that the big men are guilty of the war. Oh no, the little man is just as guilty. Otherwise, the peoples of the world would have risen in revolt long ago. There is in people simply an urge to destroy, an urge to kill, to murder and rage. Ruling class governments and influencers exist, but individuals are still responsible for their own actions. No movement or trend happens without the participation of the individuals that make up the masses. Everyone is responsible for their own thoughts, speech, and actions. Ideally, leaders positively direct their communities, but in the absence of righteous direction, one is obligated to at least reject evil influence from others.
Okay, the line most often quoted from Frank's diary are her famous words, and we talked about this before: "I still believe, in spite of everything, that people are truly good at heart." These words are inspiring. People being truly good at heart before meeting these words are inspiring. Okay, people being truly good at heart before meeting people who want. 3 weeks after writing those words, she met people who weren't. Okay. And according to the book, it's naive to assume or believe that people are inherently good. In reality, people can be inherently good or evil, but most learn to be who they are from their natures and nurtures. According to the Torah perspective, while one is certainly born with specific character tendencies and is even further influenced by the environment in which they were raised and how they are educated, everyone is imbued with divinity, making each person inherently faithful and good. So I agree. I mean, I agree that people are inherently good. I mean, like she said, and I think all of us agreed, you know, that it was very surprising that the author was saying that potentially that's not the case. Or maybe was she just saying, you know, that, you know, she met people who were inherently good thereafter. I don't know, but
yeah.
Anyway.
Dara, you want to read the next one?
The teenage boys who participated in competitive athletics in the gymnasium in Jerusalem 2,200 years ago had their circumcisions reversed because otherwise they would not have been allowed to play. Jews have been made to deny their essential identity in order to participate in society through most of history. Most instances of Jews abnegating their essential identities are, at least in part, a product of misordered priorities. For example, when Jewish boys reversed their circumcisions during the occupation of the Syrian Greeks, it is because they wanted to participate in Greek culture and participated in their competitive athletics.
Yeah, and assimilate. That, I was really surprised. I didn't know that happened.
I can't believe it either.
And that's really weird. Why would they have people competing in sports in the nude?
That was the fashion.
Was it?
Yeah, that was the fashion. Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody did that in the Greek time.
Wow.
All right.
Can you imagine how painful that must have been?
I can't even imagine. They don't have like, it's not nowadays with the cosmetic surgery or who knows whatever they can do. Back then, I don't even want to know what they did. It's just terrible.
Yeah, and they said so. That was even hard. You know what I mean? It was a hard surgery.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so they said. But
Yes.
I mean, yeah. But to assimilate and just to be able to play in sports, and I mean, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's true. The Soviet Union thus pioneered a versatile gaslighting slogan, which later spread through its client states in the developing world, and which remains popular today. It was not anti-Semitic, merely anti-Zionist. In the process of not being anti-Semitic and merely being anti-Zionist, the regime managed to persecute, imprison, torture, and murder thousands of Jews. What's left of Jewish culture once you surgically remove religious practice, traditional texts, Hebrew, and Zionism. According to the author, anti-Semitism is often guised as a political response to Zionism in an attempt to justify and normalize it. The Torah perspective, a vast majority, if not all, of what is said to be anti-Zionist rather than anti-Semitic is in fact fundamentally anti-Semitism, being applied to Zionism or the State of Israel. However, there is a crucial misunderstanding that Zionism originally grew out of or was sanctioned by Judaism, and thus one must support Zionism in order to avoid being anti-Semitic. So there is a difference between the two. Absolutely, people take it upon themselves. You know, if someone is anti-Semitic, they're gonna kind of have under the guise of being, you know, knocking Zionism. But there is a little difference. But it is true that it is anti-Semitic usually when they're saying stuff that are against Zionism.
So even those who chose to participate in organized Jewish communities felt that a name change was necessary. Okay, these people were not self-hating Jews. They were simply staring down a reality that they could not deny. And as the wording of their petitions reveals, they also could not allow themselves to admit exactly what that reality was. So according to the book, secular society forces conformity and oppresses unique distinctions. So Jews were forced by social pressures to change their names to less Jewish-sounding ones. And according to the Torah perspective, no one can logically deny social pressures in general, or those directed against the Jewish people in particular. However, if the Jewish people did not change their Hebrew names, language, clothing, or morals while in exile and enslaved in Egypt, they should ostensibly be able to withstand the comparatively limited social pressures of anti-Semitic elements of modern society.